Okay, here we go with our Figma basic UI elements demo. First up, we're going to create ourselves a frame. So we go over here and select the frame tool and drag a frame onto our canvas. Next up, we're going to select our frame and go over here to the right hand side and select a frame preset. So for this particular demo, we are going to go with a desktop size of 1440 by 1024, which gives us a nice large desktop frame. I'm going to reduce the height of that to about 800 over here in our properties panel. And that is our frame. We're going to be creating a website header module. Okay, next up, let's give our frame a background color. To do that, we click here and select the frame, go over to our properties panel, click on the fill, and let's make the background color a nice black. Next up, we're going to put some text into our layout. To do that, we go up to the toolbar and click the T and then tap on our canvas. I'm going to copy and paste some lorem ipsum in here. So copy there and I paste in here. By default, it selects a text box which you can just drag and resize like this if you want. For the second line of copy, we're just going to copy and paste underneath. So we drag that down. This is going to be for our subheader. Again, I've got some text, so I just copy and paste my lorem ipsum into it here. Like so. Over here on the right hand side, we want to adjust the properties, so I'll make this one about 30, maybe 40, and then also make that regular. So there we have our header and subheader for our website header module. Next up, we want to add a nice hero graphic to our header module. You can do this a number of ways. For example, I already have a graphic I want to use here in Figma. So I can select this graphic and copy it from one Figma document to the next Figma document like this, straight onto the frame. Then I can also resize the graphic however I want. The other way to add graphics to your Figma layout is to use files from your computer. For example, I've got a couple of files here on my desktop. I can simply click on the graphic on my desktop or anywhere on my computer and drag it into the Figma frame like so and resize it. Figma likes working with three main file formats for your graphics, your images, those being a .svg file, which is a vector format and probably the preferred format. Second file format is a .png file. And then lastly, you can also use JPEGs when doing your graphic and imagery work within Figma. Next up, we want to add a logo into our layout. As stated before, I have a demo logo in my assets here in another Figma file. I simply click on the graphic file, copy it from one Figma document, and paste it into the frame of this Figma document. Again, if you have a graphics file on your desktop that you want to use, you can simply select a file anywhere from your computer and drag it into your Figma frame like this. Next up, we want to add a simple main nav to our header module. To do this, let's just simply copy and paste some existing text we have within our frame. Copy and paste. Just move this down here. We'll call this one products. To make the text box hug the actual text itself, if you go over here to the right hand side in the properties panel, we can click auto width here. As you can see, the text box hugs the text there, which is quite handy. Let's move it up here to the top. Copy and paste. Call this one services. Copy and paste. We'll call this one about us. Copy and paste. We'll call this one support. Now that text is a little bit big, so I'm going to select all of these like this and go over to our properties panel and make that about 30 pixels. Okay, let's go with 25. Now these are a little bit narrow, so let's just select them and make them closer together like this. You can also select all of them like this, go over to our properties panel, and we can click distribute horizontal spacing, so it lines them all up together with equal spacing in between. And that is our nav bar. Okay, next up we want to add our main call to action button. To do this, we'll go up here to the toolbar, select rectangle, draw a rectangle onto our frame. I want to make this button the same color as our logo, so we'll select it here, go over to fill, click this little dropper tool here, and then go over to our logo and pick the color of our logo. So now we can see that our button is the same color as our logo. Next up, we want to put some curves on our button. So let's select our rectangle here. Over in the properties panel, we can see we have a corner radius field here. Let's make that 10 pixels, nice and round, so you can see that we have round corners on our button now. Just move that along. We need some text in the button, so let's go over here, copy and paste this nav text here, drag it down into our button. Over here on the left hand side, we can see that this layer is actually underneath our rectangle, so let's just click on this layer and drag it on top of our rectangle here. Text is a little bit small, so let's go over here and make it a bit bigger. Let's go with 35, and let's move it into the center of the rectangle here. When you move things around in Figma, it has these great guides where you can actually see when something sits in the middle. And then lastly, let's just make that semi-bold, and also let's change the text to sign up now. And that is our main call to action, and that completes our basic UI elements demo in Figma.